Hello and welcome to True North EV Podcast. I'm here today with Darryl, who's got some awesome news and stories all about life in Edmonton with his Model S and multiple Teslas. Hope you guys enjoy. Hello and welcome to True North EV. Darryl, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. So we'll get started. What was the first electric vehicle you wanted and why?
The Tesla 100D, and I actually ended up in an interesting situation. I've started a company with Teslas, and we lease them out to Uber drivers for ride-sharing purposes. So we've now got 7 of these running around Alberta, and so yeah, I drive one full time and. Get quite a bit of kilometers on it and quite a bit of driving in the winter experience. And yeah, the reason we got them, they're they're the future of the automobile, really. I'm very tech savvy, so it's I was the first to have an iPhone when people had flip phones, so it's always interesting to be on the edge of technology. And if you do the price over long term and you want to keep it and or use it for a commercial purpose,
Yep.
the maintenance cost and the operational costs just absolutely make sense, like without a doubt.
Awesome. So you own a Model S or a Model X 100D right now?
There we have all S's, and it's
Okay,
the one. Yeah.
awesome. And so what kind of range are you getting? Like, you said all over Alberta you got them. Is there a difference in range? Because I know kind of southern Alberta is a little warmer than northern, or are they kind of
Yeah.
all scattered throughout? And
Yeah. Well, I've driven it from minus. I drove that cold, like minus 45, 47 there with the wind between Edmonton and Calgary this past winter. There's that week of really cold weather. I did that back and forth 3 times that week, and all the way up to the pluses 25, 30s in the summer, right? And it's the range basically, optimum in the summer versus absolute worst in the winter. I say it's half. So
okay,
my 100D ran basically at the this is like I had 5 people in my car plus luggage. We're going down the highway. I'm only doing like 100 because I wanted to conserve as much energy as possible, right?
yeah.
And it got 250 kilometers of range, right, rather than the 500 that it normally gets in the optimum conditions.
And so, why did you choose the EVs? Like, did you have the business idea before the EVs, or were the EVs first and then the business type deal?
Well, the EVs, I knew I wanted to go that way personally, and I wanted to see how I could, if there was a way that I could do it into a business. So I'd originally written my business plan and took it to some banks and got some money. And I wrote it under a Model 3 is what I was originally, just under myself was
Yeah.
my original plan, and get going that way, and maybe a couple of years down the road. But I tapped into an investor who just really liked the idea of what I was, what I kind of put together, and we found on a way to expand it. And he said, hey, like, we can get this to 10, 20 cars here, in under a year, kind of thing, right, rather than a couple years, and really expand on these. And then rather than driving and managing these cars is kind of that's what I do now, is just meet up with these other guys and check out their cars. And it's so yeah, I've
Oh,
got a pretty good range of these cars now. Having 7 of them running in all these same conditions and winter times, and we've had like literally no problems with them at all.
so do you operate out of Calgary, Edmonton, or both?
We do both. I'm out of Edmonton. We've got 2 cars in Calgary right now, and then the rest are in Edmonton and area.
Okay. And so, did you drive like a normal like cab or normal Uber, gas Uber before this,
No,
or?
Well, so I had started out briefly using my own gas vehicle just as kind of like to get the numbers, you know what I mean, to see
Yeah.
what the cost basis would be and the cost per kilometer, and see, how that works out. Um, just on a very short term basis for that, data gathering purpose. But and then once I kind of already knew, but you know what I mean, you wanted to get your own numbers. So then once I had that data, I was like, all right, it just made sense to go to the EVs. So yeah.
And what vehicle did you have before the Model S then?
I ran a just Dodge minivan, and
Okay.
I still have it. That'll be moved over to that's the family only vehicle now. That'll be moved into retirement, or it'll be out of service actually once the Cybertruck is out. I've got one of those on order, so um, that'll be my next dive into the next EV. So be a complete retirement of ICE vehicles from there on in.
Nice. And so are you then going to be trying to get like a little fleet of Cybertrucks going also, or just one for your
I
personal self type deal?
I think it'll start out as personal, but I've got a lot of requests already. A lot of people are asking, are you getting one? And once I say that I am, they're like, oh, are you going to run it in this? And I was like, you know, I plan by the time it's out, because that's, I'm expecting probably 2.5 years before I'll
Yeah.
get my delivery of mine, because I ordered the tri motor, so it's later on. So, but
Actually, the tri motors are the first ones. Now
I think
they changed it. Yeah.
I know they flipped them around. Yeah, they're going to go dual first and then try just after that,
Okay.
is what they're doing. But yeah, they were originally going to go the single motor first, then dual, then triple, but they put the single motor way after the even the triple now. So um,
Okay.
yeah, so even still, they earlied that timeline up, but it was
Yeah.
I'm still realistically, I'm going to think 2.5 years to delivery, like probably
Yeah.
2 years before they're in production, and give them 6 months to get some deliveries out and whatnot. So but I'll probably be doing less driving then than I am now, but still, Teslas are just so amazing. It's so fun to drive. Like it's not even work. You know what I mean? Like to,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I've got I basically average 10,000 kilometers a month on these cars, and
Wow.
um, like problem free. Everybody asks me, what's your biggest expense? Washer fluid, like
uh,
and
and
car washes.
yeah. And so, did you or any of the guys that you lease vehicles to, did they, did you guys have to make any big changes to your driving style going from a normal gas vehicle to an electric?
So I think the other guys did more than I did. I'm maybe very prudent on doing so. I can tell you that I've probably realistically never had a cell phone die on me.
Yeah.
So I just got into I'm in the always habit of, as soon as there's somewhere to plug in the car, no matter what, no matter how long you're going to be there, just plug the car in, right? And or I always, if I have appointments, I seek out chargers in the area. Maybe I'll walk a block or two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's just getting people into that same mindset. If they're driving full time for ride sharing purposes, they're simply supercharging, right? But when it's on the personal side, right? Especially some of the cars that are a little shorter range than others, because like I've got the 100D, but some of the other cars are 85s and stuff, so they've got a little less range, but they're still great cars, right? And they charge great, and um, yeah, it's
So, did you get into this kind of based off seeing Test Loop, or was this an idea that you had just as a way for you to get an electric type deal?
kind of both. I've been following Tesla and Elon for a long time, since the early 2000s, actually, since he got into the PayPal such. So I've been definitely looking for a way to get into a Tesla, and or find some way to make something out of it, because I just saw everything going that way, right? Like I'm of the age that I was around for the start of the internet, and I was in the right time period for all of that, right?
Yeah.
I always positioned myself accordingly, technology wise, when other people weren't so much. So
Yeah.
it's just like, and I've now got 2,500 rides that I've done on Uber with the cars, and you know, probably 95% of them are positive for sure, right? There's very few haters, and if they do, usually they, they're quiet about it. But um, it's
Well, you're always going to have the person that had a bad day or whatever,
oh
also.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
But generally, it's it makes everybody's day having to get into a Tesla. Most people know what it is, and they're excited, and they're, you know what I mean. It makes their day rather than anything. But there's always the heavy oil people in Alberta that just absolutely
yeah,
despise it, and they won't go any other way. But that's where I used to be oil field years ago. So I like to bring that up, right? So they like to see that contrast there. So.
and do you find with doing Uber with the Model S, do you find anybody really struggling with the door handles then?
I've had none. So some of the older cars, we've had a couple issues with doors, but we're quite inept in fixing them now. So we can get them in and out and repaired quite quickly. But once they're upgraded, they've been good. So it's just those
Okay.
those older style, those version, because they're on like version 3 handles. Like my 100D has
Yeah.
the version 3s. Those I've had no problems with those. Zero.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's only the version 2s is what we've had problems with.
And what's the longest trip you've done it in your Tesla?
Like nonstop or
No, even like with stops or whatever. Yeah.
so we purchased one of the cars in Quebec, and I drove it back from Quebec via the United States last summer. Um, all the way down through the southern United or northwestern United States, and back into Montana and into Alberta, and that was kind of my first full deep in long experience driving the cars, right? Supercharge, and that was an 85 car as well. So it was, I had to stop to supercharge every 200 kilometers, right?
Yeah.
Along the interstates, and it was fantastic. I got home. I was like, and I've done a lot of traveling in the day, and the standard type traveling where you drive till you run out of gas or somebody has to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So, or you push that tank. But being forced to get out every 2 hours, and you're like, well, there's nothing else I can do. And the charges on that car ranged from, you're going from a 15-minute stop to a 50-minute stop, right? Depending on, it was kind of, it varied every kind of second or third, right? You kind of was a low, medium, and the high charge you would do. So I
Yeah.
just kind of planned to eat at the longer ones, and unless there was something, you'd look ahead. Oh, there's something cool on. And that 85 as well was a non-autopilot car, so that was all just cruise control driving back, and it was still phenomenal. But being forced to get out every 2 hours and charging is the way that we should be traveling. Like I was like, get out and walk around, see where you're at. You're in different states that you may never be in again, or different chargers. And I do my 10,000 steps a day walking around superchargers and checking out different towns and malls, and you know what I mean. I was like, well, it's got to charge, right? I've got 40 minutes to be here. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And I used to do the same driving, like drive kind of till I needed gas and then go. And I would do 1,400-kilometer trips. But I just had a kid and we did a trip and it was every 2 hours. And even that, it added 2 hours to the trip, but you felt a lot more able to go those extra time instead of just exhausted when you get back
yeah,
or when you get to the
yeah,
destination.
yeah. It
And now,
basically,
did you use?
go ahead.
Go ahead. Good. Go
Oh, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, yeah, it just reduces the fatigue, right? Is all it does.
Yeah.
It's even like I'd love to do it again in the autopilot now. And now that the cross Canada's open, I'd like to do my 100D. Depending on how things go, and this summer wise, if we're gonna have a summer or not. But it'd be nice to do the cross Canada trip, right?
Yeah. And so you use superchargers all the way from Quebec
Yeah.
to your place?
The only point, so Great Falls, Montana. Uh, so Butte was the last supercharger, and then I went from Butte to Great Falls, and spent the night there at a hotel that had a destination charger. and then I made it from there to Lethbridge, and then I had to do a
Okay.
slight slow charge there just to make sure that I'd make it to Fort Macleod, because I hadn't been up that way, and I was not sure if that, if you get a heavy headwind or something there going into Fort Macleod, like it was,
Yeah.
I think my rough guess was like I'd have about 8 kilometers of range left by the time I hit Fort Macleod if I didn't stop, and I was not willing to push that car that hard. And so I was like, well, I'll just stop in Lethbridge for, half an hour or 45 minutes and get a little bit of a slow charge at one of the hotels, and you know at least to get you 25, 30 kilometers, at Fort Macleod instead of 8.
Yeah.
So, but no, sure enough, it was, windy going there, so it did definitely ate up a bit more range than you'd like. But no, that was the only slow charging I had to do in that car, and other than that, it was a fantastic trip. Like I said, I would have turned around and went right back to Quebec. It was that comfortable to do, and
Nice. Now, what would you say out of the Tesla Model S's that you have? What's the worst feature or item in them?
the
Even maybe some that from the older ones that they've corrected on the newer ones.
um this is the funniest thing ever, probably. So the washer sprayers on and it's funny. I think some of the older cars seem to have better one than my 100D, but a number of the newer ones seem so they're like very jet spraying, fluid eating washer sprayers versus just a nice mist pattern. So yeah, like from a day-to-day driving, I would say that would be my biggest complaint of the whole car, and that's 100,000 plus kilometers of driving them already,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's pretty funny that that's my biggest complaint, I would say. I've driven a bit of the X too for probably 20, 30,000 kilometers. Like my got a little more complaints on that one than the S, but no, the S. Now the S, I would probably say. So I've done a lot of my own work to them as well. Like I pulled the frunks out of them, and had a look in the underside and stuff, and done some because we put dash cams in the car and stuff. So I wire those in myself. So on that side, I see like a lot of changes that they've done on the cars that have made it much easier to work with
Yeah.
afterwards. Some things harder, but there's reason to them. Like some of the older cars have a very easy to change cabin air filter, and the newer ones you got to like rip the glove box apart, which is really not that bad to do. It's still fairly quick, but it's not quite as easy. But you look at that and you think, well, why would they have done something like this? So I actually looked into it, and it turns out the new filters that they use in the newer S's cost half as much as the ones that they had in the older cars.
So it's just purely a cost savings purpose.
Yep, I could see it now that somebody ran in, to Elon. We can switch to these filters. We got to move them to the inside of the glove box, but they're half the cost, right? And something that simple, and you could see it on the assembly line, and it would just make sense. They wouldn't do something like that if it wasn't like a cost saving and time saving measure. So that's kind of, what I mean, versus the old cars and the new ones. As you're going through them, you can see these slight little changes like that. The 12-volt batteries in the older cars are just buried inside there, and they're just not fun to change or to get out or anything whatsoever. And they've changed that now. Now, like the newer cars, they're like you pop the front out and boom, it's right there.
Especially since that's kind of the main thing that
The
is the big
Yeah,
issue in the electrics.
yeah, and actually, which I can also say, like through all of our cars, we have yet to do any 12-volt work to any of them. So, we
Oh,
had an MCU failure on one, and thus far that's basically been it.
wow. And
Tires,
going with the cabin air filter, I've noticed though, like even in my personal experience, most seem to be in the behind the glove box.
yep,
So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of the norm place to have them. But they had it like formerly it was under the frunk, but very easy under one piece of plastic, quite easily
yeah.
to get at, right?
And so, what's probably the best feature of your Model S's?
Throughout all of them, or specifically?
Either or,
Uh, Specifically, the autopilot, without a doubt. I don't think
even
I
in the city?
even in the city, yeah, I still use it, like on any straightaway going through downtown, unless you're like in a residential. That's pretty well the only place I don't use it.
Okay.
If there's any, I'd use it to help regulate my speed, maximize efficiencies. You know what I mean? Just to give like a more consistent ride to passengers as
Yeah.
well, right? Like I maintain like a 4.99 rating, like pretty well, you know, as high as you can get, right? Like I got like one under 5-star rating. Um, so you know what I mean? It's just kind of
Yeah.
that. So um, definitely that. Overall, through all of them, just like the complete low cost of maintenance, like just the look of the car probably too. You know, it's a very timeless look. It doesn't. When I tell people, you know, they say, "Oh, this is, you know, what year is this? This has got to be just brand new." And I'm like, "No, this car's actually 4 years old, right?" And I said, and they look, you know, other than the nose cones of the cars, they've looked the same since 2012. And everybody's like, "Really? Like they didn't change any?" I was like, "Well, no, it's been, you know, it's like a computer. They upgrade the internals, or they've made them
Yeah.
more efficient to build." I said, "Really?" I said, "They've changed the seats, and you know, that's pretty well it. The options along the line when you purchase the car have become standard versus options." I said, that's pretty well it. And everybody's, you know, just like, you know, just floored at that idea, right? But overall, the autopilot, without a doubt.
Now, do you have full self-driving
I
in any of them, or?
So actually, mine is the only one with full self-driving. All the rest of them, the earlier, older 85s don't have any cameras whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple of um, Cameron cars that don't. I think that you could have gotten like an early version to autopilot at the time, but
Yeah.
they're not letting you have that anymore on those cars. So, but I've found some way else. If the MCU goes on those cars, apparently there's a way to possibly open that up as well.
Upgrade.
Yeah.
Now, would you then, if I purchase or when you purchase more vehicles for this, would you be looking at full self-driving to possibly switch over to that route or no?
At this time, no, we're actually really targeting a certain, like those 85 cars we're getting out of Quebec for like just fantastic prices. Like people, I love people's mentality that they think cars are absolutely garbage after 100 to 150,000 kilometers, and I'll take that all day because I know that a Tesla does not qualify for that kind of mentality, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, that might be more true on a gas type vehicle, but on
absolutely,
electric,
yeah.
it doesn't even matter.
No, no, and people, but it's that gas mentality that
Yeah.
everybody has. Even if they'll like the one guy that, you know, that we bought one of the cars off of in Quebec privately. I met with the guy, picked it up off him, looked it over and whatnot, and that was what he was. He's, you know, no, it's got, you know, it's coming up to 100,000 kilometers. It's time to get rid of it, right? Like, you know, he had it a number of years, like he had it like 4 years, right? So didn't
Yeah.
do a whole lot of driving with it, but enough, right? And but that particular car, the guy he had free supercharging on the car, and he said, I think I used it once. He said all he did, he had slow charging at work and at home. So he was like, well, he's like, mostly I would just charge at work, right? He said, you know, if I had to. And he lived at a point that was close to wherever, you know, in Quebec, wherever they go, he was always close enough, right? You know what I mean? He never had to supercharge for it. So when I drove that car across the country, that was the most it would ever had ever supercharged. And
Now, does the free supercharging, does that get passed on to the next owner then, or?
so yes, there's some caveats in that. Basically, any used car you buy from Tesla anymore that had it, they are removing it because they are
Yeah.
re-owning the cars, so they can basically do whatever they want to them, right? Now, buying it privately or from a dealer, Tesla doesn't have their hands in between it on again, so the contracts on those cars are lifetime of the car has free supercharging, right?
Okay.
So, again, they're able to change that if they, if the owner sells it back to Tesla, they're removing it.
Now, have you bought in most of your vehicles privately or through dealerships or a combination of?
Combo of both, actually. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
And what has your
Probably.
experience been with the dealership side of it?
Um, Ours very good, actually. They just need, our most recent one we purchased was an 85 out of Quebec, out of a Porsche dealer. So my suspicion was the owner bought a Taycan. Was kind of the wording of the guy that we purchased it from. So he just did a trade in of his 2014 Model S and got himself a Taycan, and he basically gave this car away to them. We it just phenomenal price we got it for, even shipped. We got it thrown on the train. See, Quebec had gotten up to $16,000 in rebates on those cars. So
Yeah.
people in Quebec are fine with, you know, selling them for much less, whereas in Alberta, like I'll tell you straight up, shipped to Alberta from Quebec, $37,000 for this car. Like
Wow.
lifetime free supercharged, like mint condition, just beautiful car. Rear wheel drive only was the only thing, but I don't know if you've driven one of those. They are still
It doesn't
phenomenal.
even matter
It
with
does not. I've
Teslas.
I've driven them in heavy winter. If the traction control is just unbelievable on those cars, um, and it's what a great deal, right? Like, and there's a lot of those. It's not just a rare deal. And the same thing. That one has 150,000 kilometers. The guy figured out that's it. Done. I found out when we got the car here too that I called Tesla and there's still bumper to bumper warranty on it for another 10,000 kilometers yet. Right?
And then
I
I get, what has been the service like with Tesla with these? Or are most of your vehicles out of warranty when you get them? Or
So we have lucked out. So we either got them when they had a little bit of bumper to bumper left, and then they all have motor and battery warranty.
yeah,
Um, for I think the least one we have is 2 years left on it, but most of them are like 4 or 5 or 6 years, depending on the years of them, right? Of the
yeah,
motor
because you
battery. But
guys have old enough ones that they're still unlimited kilometers, correct?
yes, they're all actually unlimited kilometers.
Okay.
And actually, I have one that Tesla called a unicorn that we got, and it has a no mileage, no end date warranty on the battery and motor.
Oh, how does that work even?
They apparently offered it, according to Tesla. They had different offerings at different times through different years. You know what I mean? Like different. They said there's
Yeah.
so many changes of them. You have to run the VIN number, and they'll tell you. You can't assume that there's one thing or another. But this particular car has bumper to bumper for another 80,000, and unlimited battery and warranty and motor. The
Which is
Tesla, when they ran it for
fantastic
me,
for a company like yours.
oh, yeah. When Tesla ran it, they said, "Oh, you've got one of those unicorn cars," they said. I was like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And they said, for a very short time, Tesla had offered, just to try and get people buying their cars, like no end date warranty on the motor and battery. I was like, "Oh, that's phenomenal, right?" I'm like, "Well, we're gonna mile that car right out." Like, and honestly, I want to see these cars go with 1 million on them, right?
Yeah.
Like on all of them, like with very minimal. I can attest the only issue I had with one car, which was mine in particular, and this isn't specific to EVs either, is the body control module plug rattled loose and popped out, and the car just died on me. And that was with my 100D three with 300 kilometers of factory warranty left on it. So roadside flatbedded it to Calgary for me for free because it was still under warranty, and they had it running the next day. And all it was just it unscrewed. So again, this is body control module is something that every vehicle, regardless of EV or gas, has, and
Yeah.
regardless of either kind of vehicle, it would shut the vehicle down the same. So you
Yeah.
know what I mean. It's not an E, and I was in no way. I had just dropped a passenger off, and man, can those cars coast. I coasted a kilometer and a half to an area that was like a parking lot that was perfectly safe to roll into, to because I knew, I was like, I'm gonna have to get a tow. Like when I tried to reboot it and it wouldn't reboot, I knew, I was like, no, this is gonna get towed. So rolled into a nice parking lot that nobody was at, and roadside assistance told me it was going to be, somebody would be there in an hour. 23 minutes later, a tow truck showed up. um, yeah, everything with Tesla service as well has been phenomenal for my behalf. I'm hoping that's not because we have 7 cars. I'd like to, I've heard some people not have as good, service, or, things with Tesla service in Calgary, but um, I can't say the same. I've had no problems with them whatsoever.
So here in Winnipeg, I know we used to call them Rangers, but I don't
Yep.
think they're called Rangers
Yeah.
anymore.
No, they still are. Yeah. Yeah, they
Oh,
still are.
okay. I just heard somewhere that they're not called Rangers anymore. But
No, I hadn't heard that.
do you guys have Rangers then in Edmonton,
Yeah, we
or
do
does all your
actually.
work have to go to Calgary?
No, we had a couple small like warranty items, headlights and stuff on a couple of the cars that went before they were up, and I had the Ranger come to my heated garage and work on all the cars. He had, a couple. They were all small item things, right?
Yeah.
Little trim pieces or this or that that were all, um, factory warranty covered. And no, he, great guy, updated the cars, had a good chat with them. He like, when the guy's working in your own personal garage, you get to see how he does it, and able to bother him a bit. And he sets a good block of time too for repairs. And actually, the funny part was the longest it took him versus changing headlights and everything else in one of these cars was just doing a more flash software update to the car. He said like downloading it. That's what took the longest. I think it was like an hour and a half. I think he did the
Wow.
headlight. I think he did the headlight in like 20 minutes. Popped the whole bumper off, swapped it out. A couple other cars, just quick door handle items and stuff like that. And no, so yeah, all around good response from them.
Awesome. Um, have you converted anybody to an EV? Do you
I,
give out your Tesla code and all that with the
um,
Ubers?
so I've been in the midst of trying to. I think I'd gotten a number of business cards printed up prior to getting all involved with this. So I'm gonna actually now add like a QR link to the back of my cards for purchasing them. But I've
Yep.
had 3 people comment on my Uber account that they're going to purchase EVs. One lady in particular was flying home. I was dropping her off at the airport, and she had wanted, she was like new vehicle time anyways, and she had a gas vehicle that was costing her a fortune in gas on Vancouver Island. It was
Yep.
like, $1.50, $1.60 a liter there. And she's just like, I'm just done with this, right? Completely. And she actually wrote
Especially
on,
in Vancouver.
oh, especially. And she'd written right on there that like, I'm ordering one on the plane now, that I took one to the airport. She's like, because and that's a lot of people are like, well, how do you get them? Because so much information is not like, people just don't know what's going on. Like a lot of people, oh, doesn't it take like 6 months to get one of these cars? I'm like, oh, no. I said, you order one online? I said, I think the last time I did a build in price on a Model S, it was 4 weeks. And they're like,
Yeah.
really? I was like, yeah. And I said, the Model 3s are like 2 to 3 weeks. And they're like, what? Really? I was like, oh yeah. Like I said, if you get one, if they have the odd couple in Calgary that are, they pretty well only ship them if they're purchased, but they'll have a couple in inventory, right? A very, very few that they know they're going to move quickly, that they can get out, right? Like they don't stock them like normal dealers do. But
Well, and that's even the difference. So, like, I have a Hyundai Kona Electric
mhm.
where I had to wait, what, 5 months for mine, versus if I would have ordered a Model 3, I would have had it in, at that point, a month or two.
Yeah,
So that's even what I tell people. If you need a car right away, Tesla is the way to go.
yeah.
It's the least amount of wait time. Um, and any other I guess with all those drives and all that, any interesting little quirks or any interesting little tidbits that others might enjoy?
Just the whole comfort of the car, I think, is the biggest thing. Like everybody, they say you don't, it's hard to feel that you're moving, because there's the shift between the
Yeah.
vehicles, right? It's just the straight power. Mine has the full air ride suspension and everything, so it's just like a big pillow, big 5,000 pound pillow, right? The Mine has the full glass roof as well, so a lot of people, everybody loves that, and they. I'd say mostly everybody gets in the car, they catch the screen right away and are just blown away by the size of it. And then once they sit back and they kind of get themselves comforted, they look, oh my gosh, look at the roof. Is that a mirror? Is that see-through? And I'm like, no, that's just a big sheet of glass. And everybody's, wow, like this is a whole like, and going through downtown in Edmonton and stuff, or Calgary, just a whole different view of the city, right? Rather than being in a
Yeah.
topped up cab, right? Or something without the ability to see what's going on.
Awesome. Now, is there a way that if somebody's in Edmonton or Calgary and they need an Uber, that they can reach out to just you guys, or
So we actually, all of us operate under. There's another service out of Calgary named Inorbis, and they are like they're a Tesla only, kind of like a business class. So they want to operate like a Uber Black or Select, the higher end type car.
yeah,
Again, only with Teslas. So we all operate under them. So they have their own app now going. So if you want us specifically or one of us, we operate under both companies. So that's the easiest way I would say to get us now. Uber is apparently in Vancouver. They're just testing this feature of being able to favorite a driver. It hasn't moved to Edmonton yet, but if it does, that'll definitely be more beneficial to people as well, right? Then you'll be able to pick. And then we're also kind of banking on Tesla Taxi. They're talking about they're going to allow drivers to operate part of it, right? With
yeah.
before it's fully autonomous in different areas. So I'm kind of hoping for that as another, just continue all the different revenue streams for these drivers to be able to operate these cars, right? And just enjoy them. Like bunch of them are truck drivers or former truck drivers, and they're just like, being beaten up in a truck all day, that you're working for another guy driving across the country and never know when you're going to be home, versus a Tesla. I can get my groceries for free, I get my gas for free. Like most of
Yeah.
these guys, 40 amp charge at home, but even still the cost is so minimal, right? Like it's more just a top up to make sure that
Up here, is there any other way that somebody can reach out to you if they got questions about either starting a kind of similar business to yours, maybe in another province or whatever? Uh, what's the best way for somebody to reach you, or any shout outs you want to do, or anything like that?
Probably the best way, try electriccarmanagement.com, and then my info's on there. Would be the best way to get a hold of me. My name, Darryl Koloweski. I'm on Facebook for the company. You can, message me that way. Um, yeah, those are probably the two best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Uh, any other info or anything you want to share with others that might be looking at getting into something similar to this?
Um, well, on the business side, I'd be happy to chat if you're just looking, for a new vehicle or whatever. I'm definitely no salesman, never was, and
Yeah.
I'm just passionate about the vehicle that I drive, and um, I highly encourage, just from the monetary side of things, if you're looking for a vehicle that you want for a long period of time and you want it problem free, and an EV is the way to go, like without a doubt. I won't be biased to Tesla in this, even though I am, but there's many great ones out there, but it's just a matter of picking what works best for you. So um you know being able to have the right service and whatnot for what you get, and support for it, and looking at the future of vehicles, right? This is where they're going, and if it's the time to get them, may as well look at an EV, because they're definitely worth it.
Yeah.
without a doubt.
And as you've shown, it doesn't matter if it's new or used with an
No,
EV.
yeah. Like
No.
I've been telling a lot of people, like, go look at Quebec, Ontario, any of those eastern provinces that got huge rebates. Those cars are just phenomenally priced. Hop on a plane, go pick one up. Like, they're not like a normal car, right? Again, it's not those 100,000 kilometers and they're no good anymore, right? It's
Well, and especially with the Teslas being all aluminum, there's less
oh yeah,
concerns with the out east with the salt and all that.
yeah.
Um,
There's a few things like the hood um supports the shocks and stuff like that, but those are, what I mean, those are cheap switch outs.
yeah,
You know what I mean? They're not thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in repairs, right? So
yeah. Awesome. Well, I thank you again so much,
yeah,
Darryl,
no
for
problem.
your time, and it was awesome talking to you.
Yeah,
Um,
great talking to you.
and you have yourself a great rest of the day.
Yeah, you as well, man. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
I want to thank Darryl again for his time and the awesome news. And it's awesome seeing somebody using multiple Teslas for business, especially out in Alberta. And so, yeah, thanks so much for your time. And if you guys want to reach me, it's at truenorthev@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook and Twitter at True North EV Podcast. And you can also use the Anchor app and actually send a voice recording to me if you so choose. So you guys I got one more interview of this kind. So that will come out on Wednesday. And hope you guys enjoy. Any questions, comments, feedback, so you can send them my way. You guys have yourself a great week. Bye.